Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Weekly Wisdom. Now, as I mentioned last week, this week we're going to dive into resume writing. I figured this is my way to help out during the COVID crisis. And for those of you that are job hunting, or even if you're just thinking about a career change and right now has you realigning priorities, hopefully this session will help a little bit. So this is for building a generic resume. And before we jump in, I have a couple of disclaimers. So the first one, resumes are a very personal thing. It represents you. So every person that you talk to is going to give you different feedback about what works and what doesn't work on a resume. Now that's what represents them. So take what you like out of this video and implement it right away. And if there's stuff that you're thinking, I don't like that, that doesn't work for me, that doesn't work in my industry, that's fine too. I promise you, you will not hurt my feelings by picking and choosing what advice you take. It's kind of what I expect you to do. It's critical thinking. The resume needs to represent you, not me. But this is what I have found to work whenever I am writing a resume. So let's look at a very rough example of a resume. So at the very top of the resume, the thing that you need is your personal information. Now this should include your name, your phone number, your email, and a LinkedIn profile if you have it. Now, if you're in graphic design or things like that, you may want to include a portfolio as well, because that would be important for the position that you're applying for. For most positions though, name, phone number, email, and LinkedIn profile will be enough. Do not include your address. You don't need that information floating around anywhere. So it'll be in your application, your formal application. You don't need it in your resume. Now, the next thing is a summary of skills. So this can either be paragraph or bullet form, whichever you like. And it's going to be quick 3 to 4 either bullets or sentences talking about why you're the ideal candidate for this position. So the very top bullet for my resume reads something along the lines of learning and professional development, learning and development professional with 7 to 8 years experience in facilitation, training delivery, and training design with over 20 years in the hospitality industry. Now this helps when I'm looking for a position in hospitality in learning and development, right? All right, so after you have your summary of skills, you go into your professional experience. So this is where you're going to dive in and give them a brief overview of the positions you've had and the impacts you have made. Now we're going to go deeper in a minute, but the thing about the bullet points under professional experience, it should not be a job description. Your resume is convincing them in a very brief amount of time why you are an ideal candidate over the next person. So if I'm looking for, let's say, a grocery manager. Let's say I'm looking for a grocery manager and I have one candidate who is, their resume is a job description. A grocery manager I scheduled, I hired, I trained. Versus the next resume of a grocery manager that says, while at grocery company X, oversaw a team of 60 employees, worked and developed 10% to get promoted into ideal positions while managing a budget of, 100,000 cookies, right? That's going to step out more. That's going to help me see, is this a fit for me? Is this a fit for my department? And it's also got that wow factor. All right, then after the professional experience, it should only be the last 10 to 15 years of your positions, unless you're applying for a position that something beyond 10 to 15 years would make sense for, and you don't have that experience anywhere else in your resume. I've had people apply for like a line cook position, and when I look at their resume, they're making a career change. They're a professional who's retired. They're wanting to do something fun. And I'm looking at their resume, and it's all of their professional experience with nothing about being a line cook. But whenever I actually call them and have a conversation, they're like, oh yeah, in college I worked at Denny's for 5 years. I was a short order line cook. Okay, that should probably be included on your resume. But in most cases, 10 to 15 years max is going to be enough. Now, the other area I want to talk about is if there's a gap. If there is a gap, you need to address the gap. So if you have been a stay-at-home parent for 5 years while your children were growing and getting ready to go into school, put stay-at-home parent. You can Make it clever if you want. You were a home engineer or however you design, but it needs to be in there. You need to explain what that job gap is for. And then have education on the bottom. So the only exception to this is if you're a current college student. I know colleges will teach you that the education needs to go on top. If you have professional experience, I always err on the side of professional experience first, because even if you are a college student, as a recruiter, I'm going to look at something and say, do you have experience for the job I'm trying to hire you for? College experience is great, but it's more of, have you done something similar? So it's up to you if you're currently in college, whether you put your education on top or your professional experience. My personal opinion should always be professional experience if you have it. The other thing, college students many times ask about GPA. If you're applying for internships and internships have a GPA requirement, absolutely put your GPA. That will assist a recruiter. But unless you're in that particular example, don't put your GPA unless it's a 4.0. Because again, if you have a resume that has a 4.0 and a resume that has a 3.5 or below, that's going to be a determining factor. Okay, so up to you, but my personal recommendation, don't put your GPA. Okay, let's talk about the bullet points. So, professional experience, it should not be a job description. Again, we're going back to your resume is a commercial for you. Your resume should be that wow factor. All of those things that you have done to make an impact. We're assuming, if you're watching this video right now, we're assuming you're not in the average bunch, right? So you've done incredible things. So make sure you can quantify, if you have the numerical abilities, add that quantification, or make sure it reads more like a commercial. You have a beginning, what is this about? You have a middle, this is what you did, and you have the end. This is why it would benefit your company. Did you make them money? Did you reduce retention? Did you improve processes, improve efficiencies? Those are all areas that are going to be spectacular for putting in quantifiable data. Okay, now the next thing, objective. So I know the objective is a hotly debated topic. My personal opinion, and again, this is my opinion, don't go with an objective. Too many times I see an objective that my objective is to get a job. Okay, great. That's why you're applying. I get that. Or objective to utilize skills and past responsibilities to find the ideal career. Okay, again, it's vague. It doesn't do anything. I prefer the summary of skills because that actually shows the recruiter, shows who's hiring you, what it is that you can bring to the table. The objective, I've never seen an objective that wowed me, but I have seen a lot of objectives that did the opposite. My favorite is when somebody put that their objective was to get an accounting position within the top 4 accounting firms. Okay, that's great. Like, love the objective, love the passion, but you're applying for a grocery store, so it doesn't really translate. So my personal opinion, again, some people are tied to the objective and love them, and that's fine. But I never have an objective, and I personally haven't seen one that swayed my decision towards the positive. I've seen a lot that didn't sway my decision at all, and I've seen a lot that swayed my decision towards the negative. Okay. Longer video than normal, but here was a quick snapshot about resume help. And again, I've been working with quite a few of you. Thank you so much for reaching out for the resume advice, career advice, interview advice. I've really enjoyed our conversations. And if you're looking for resume, career, or interview guidance, I would be more than happy to assist. This is at absolutely no cost. It's just one of my ways that I have found to give back during this trying time. So whether you're thinking about a career change, you are forced into a career change, or you're just trying to figure out next steps, let's have a conversation. Don't forget, leave what you learned in the comments. This is big. We're sharing our knowledge. Share with me as well. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am at 50 subscribers. I need 50 more so I can personalize my YouTube channel. It would be a huge favor for me. There's a little button, I believe it's right here, that you can go ahead and click it. Easy subscription. And as always, don't forget, you got this. Thanks for joining this week, and have a wonderful week.